Welcome, listeners, to An Industry's Insight, the podcast where we're all about the interviewees who have been or are still in the music, publishing, marketing, film, advertising, managing business, and more. I'm your host, Thomas Grabusnik,
And I'm Dino Ciccarelli.
and let's get right into it.
So for episode 10, we have a special treat for you guys. I had the honor of opening for this wonderful, talented artist. Today we have Mike from Rosedale.
Hello. Wow, I'm honored. I didn't realize this was the last episode of your season here. That's really cool.
Yep. So
Thanks for having me on.
anytime. So getting right into it, what does Rosedale mean? Like, where did you come up with that name?
There was a street, still is a street, in Brampton, Ontario, where the band sort of started and where I still live. And it leads basically from this like shortcut train tracks crossing to the music store. So we would walk on that street pretty much every day. And for a couple of years, we were called Uneven Number. And we were just like a basic, like, blank rip-off pop punk band that had songs about growing up and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were getting a little more serious, getting into bands like The Used and that whole, like, emo movement. So we were like, Rosedale sounds like a great name, and we're on the street every day. It's kind of like our last stretch towards music, and so it was kind of the road to music for us. And then we started finding out that there was like all these other things called Rosedale, and we were like, oh, sweet, free advertising on all these transport trucks.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at the last few years, it's been like, oh man, what a terrible decision. When people search Rosedale, everything else comes up first, and like there's all these other Rosedales on Spotify, DJs and stuff that I'm just kind of like, oh man, now I'm stuck with all these CDs that say Rosedale. I can't really change the name now. But
Now,
anyways, that's where it originated.
that's cool. You say we. Is there more than just you in the band, or is it just you?
It's just me. I still say we because it's kind of a band. I mean, I'm spending more time with my equipment than any other human on the planet. So I say we as in me and all my toys, all my lights and amps and computer especially. My computer is my soulmate.
Now, where can people find your music?
RosedaleMusic.net is the main website and has all the like Facebook and Instagram tags from there, or whatever you would call them. But at Rosedale Mike is most of the handles, or at Rosedale Music on Twitter and stuff like that. Yeah, if you can't find Rosedale off of just searching Rosedale, try tagging on like music or Mike at the end of it, and you'll usually find me.
So, when and why did you start getting into music?
I don't know. I never really liked it when I was like 7 years old. I mean, I love music, listening to it. Loved going to like, you know, my first concert was Weird Al, and I never thought like I want to be a musician. I want to write songs. I just loved singing along to his stupid parody songs when I was like 7 years old. And I had a Michael Jackson tape and a Bare Naked Ladies tape, and I would just spin those all the time, not really realizing that like I could be able to create something like this. I was just more so into like jumping on my bed and singing along. So then my mom put me in piano lessons because her mom, my grandma, was like, that is where you need to start. That is where you'll learn music theory and covers all the bases as far as music and timing and theory. And I hated it for the first couple of years. I was like, I don't want to be playing these songs. And then eventually I was like really into it. And like, I don't know, I realized that I have a very addictive personality. Me and my brother both, once we start getting the hang of something, it's like we want to master it. We want to get to the top of it. So once I started jamming with my friends and getting them to start playing drums and bass, I was like, finding out about all these other punk bands like Blink-182, Boxcar Racer, that whole scene,
Mm-hmm.
Southern California scene, and I was like, that's what I want to do with my life. I want to be playing clubs and venues and filling up stadiums, and that the dream became the addiction. It was like out with hockey, in with music. Me.
What instruments do you play?
That's a hard question because I wouldn't really say I'm a drummer. I just started playing the drums about 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
because my drummers kept quitting, and I taught these drum parts over and over to so many different drummers.
Yeah.
For like 8 to 10 hour sessions that I eventually figured out the syncopation in my lap, in my hands. And then I just, figured out how to hold the stick. I'm still trying to tackle that struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And I still play with my elbows, but now I record all my drum tracks for the live show. So I would say like drums, guitar, piano, singing, bass are my like go-to practice, put time into instruments. And then the odd time I'll like pick up a cello and get relatively listenable at it, or I don't know. It's like anything. Once you learn a couple instruments,
Mm-hmm.
you can pick up another instrument and bypass someone who's only been playing that instrument for like 6 months and going to lessons and everything, just because music is music. And if you can make something sound decent and start playing other notes that sound decent, you can do that on any instrument pretty quickly, I feel like.
That's cool. So you're basically like, you could be like a one-man band.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I am now, but I wouldn't really call it like a one-man band where I'm like standing up there playing all the instruments at
Yeah.
once.
I don't think that's possible.
Pre-record, like I'll do a little bit of looping, but the majority of my sound coming off that stage is like reamping pre-recorded DI tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And I've added an element of video where everything that you're hearing being pre-recorded, you could still see on a screen, because I've filmed myself doing it with a couple cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've edited that into the show so that there's a big screen behind me of me playing all the instruments, as well as like a light show. So it's more of like a one-man multimedia rock show, which a lot of DJs have going for them, except it's like EDM, right? So
Mhm.
I'm like trying to bring that one-man multimedia experience into the world of punk rock. And it's a tough uphill battle to get people to give it a chance. But once they do, they're like, that was really unique. That was really cool. I would go see that again. Let me buy your stuff. So it's humbling to try it, but it's also really rewarding to actually play for a good crowd every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
What is your songwriting process?
Oh man, it's always different. Like I'm always trying to figure out a new way to get my mind in the most, I guess, right brain creative side that I can, because I think I'm a very left brain person with all the other crap I got to do, like booking and touring and handling finances. Like I'm the DIY guy, if there ever was one, like just managing everything myself. So when I'm trying to write, I'm like, all right, I'm going to just wake up fresh from a dream and start writing before I do anything else and see how that goes. And sometimes I'll keep some of that. Sometimes I scrap all of that. And then other times I'll just, be taking a break from writing because I have so many other things to do, like touring. And, last night I started writing during the last 10% of my packing the van. I was like, all right, I'm almost done packing this van. I got this song that I got to have done by Wednesday for this singmeastory.com company that I'm sort of teamed up with, and they're recording me Wednesday. So I'm going to start writing the song because I'm thinking about that kid's story that I'm writing about. So like little flashes of inspiration hit me sometimes where I'm like, oh, I got some good stuff. But the majority of like the last album was me just getting locked in Studio B at the studio I used to work at and where I recorded it at, and just going at it for like 8 to 12 hours every day, being like, what is the most true to me? What is the most, you know, from my background of listening to music and making music and what my fans maybe want from me, what is the most true, authentic me? That was what I was after. So that's why I evidently wrote an album about being a kid who wants to be an artist and has this dream of being a musician and going through all the trials and tribulations of having band members and having things not go quite as you anticipated or aimed for, and also the brilliance of playing that first show and accomplishing goals with these friends and having your family finally believe in you and all those things that are positive. So it's kind of like a memoir of being an artist as a kid.
Now I got a question for you. Now with the show that I opened up for you back in, I believe it was September at Amityville, the Revolution Bar. We had exchanged music and everything, and I was taking a listen to, of course, the music that you'd given me, and of course to your performance that we were listening to. But a song that really struck like basically like that, was the song "What We Started." It's one of my
cool.
one of my favorite songs off of the Again release. Can you explain to us what that song was about and your?
Oh no! Oh, of all the songs, okay.
You picked the wrong one.
No. This is good. The people like the dirt, and this is the dirt. So that song was actually originally called "Pantless Party."
Okay.
And I just wanted to write like a catchy Third Eye Blindy 90s pop song, and I had this dream like a month earlier of me waking up in my old house and having a house party, which I never had like a house party, but I had this dream where I finally just did it. I had a house party at my old house, and it was like the scene from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, where the dude's having a house party, the dude with the beard, and it's a pantless party, so everyone's walking around pantless. So it was like that in my house, and everybody who was there were like everyone that I was seeing in the dream were my like high school crushes that I never had the balls to talk to. But so yeah, it was basically just like written off of that experience of like, let's have some fun. High school crushes. It sounds really wrong, but I don't know. I was like, hey, if I'm gonna write a song about sexual encounters, it's gonna be about that dream, if anything. And so it was originally, the chorus was "Let's have a pantless party" instead of "What We Started," and all the verses were the same. And then my engineer, co-producer, mentor in the Pro Tools world, Steve Risen, came in, and he was like, dude, you definitely got to change that chorus. I was like, yeah, I know. I don't even know if we're going to release this. He's like, no, the rest of the song's really good, but like, just change that chorus to something else. And I don't know how we came up with "What We Started," but I think he said, why don't we say "What We Started" instead of "Pantless Party"? And I was like, yeah, let's finish what we started. That's still innuendo-y. And he was like, yeah, and to a parent or someone listening to it, it's got a good message. Finish what you started.
But now we know the true story behind it.
Yeah, no, I'm not ashamed to say where that song actually originated from. It's funny because a lot of people have asked me about that song. It's like, where were you going with that song? And I was like, well, the chorus was originally Pantless Party. And they're like, oh, okay. That's what I'm singing from now on.
Is anyone in your family musical? Musically? What was that? Is that word?
Musician.
Well,
Musician?
I mean, my parents never played any instruments, but they were always listening to a lot of music and like were their friends. So we always had like a record player going, or like we had these like little frogs that not real frogs, like it was like a toy. It would pick up audio and they would start moving if there was a lot of noise going on. So anytime you played music, it'd turn these little frogs on and they'd dance. So we had like little things like that were like musical. And my grandma played piano and she had a piano there. So that's kind of why my mom was like, kids got to start playing piano so that when this piano gets passed on, we can still use it. And, but they never really like took the time to learn an instrument, which I think is the only difference with me and my brother. Is like, sure, we were around music, we liked music, and everybody does. But I don't think that musicality or talent or skills are passed down through genetics. I think it's just something that anybody could pick up as long as they force themselves to be focused on the task. And for a kid, that's a lot easier. A lot of kids are like, nothing else in my schedule matters right now other than learning guitar. So I'm going to do that for 2 hours. And by the end of it, they got a pretty good handle on playing some power chords, right? And that's where me and my brother were at. He is like far beyond music ability from me. Like he practices still 4, 5, 6 hours a day sometimes. Piano, clarinet. Now he's learning the saxophone. He's getting pretty good at that. So I'm kind of jealous of like his time management and that he, works a regular job and then practices all day. Whereas I'm like at my computer booking, and I feel like I kind of peaked just in the punk rock world, 7 or 8 years ago probably. But through like touring and playing every night, I definitely like have a solid handle on these Rosedale songs,
Yeah.
So I feel like as far as live performance and presentation and stage presence, that's like what I'm constantly practicing and mastering. And then just like phonetics on these, pop songs, which are still a little more, I guess, articulate, for lack of better words, than most pop rock songs. But I'm also like trying to learn the drums now. So when I go home, I'm like mostly drumming, and then I catch myself at the piano writing, and I'm like, geez, I don't even need to be this good at piano. But here I go. I'm gonna practice scales. So they're like anything. It's like if you can assign the time for it, you can get good at it. I don't think that talent. There's a book called The Little Book of Talent that just like drives this home. That it's like talent is not genetically passed down. You need to put time in. The only thing is like smart practice that makes you good.
Well, I agree, and you also need the passion. If you have the passion, it helps more to do it.
Oh yeah. If you're into what you're doing and having fun with it, you're gonna spend an extra hour or two, or those hours that you spend are gonna be like way more intuitive and like deep practice, right?
Yeah.
Like anyone who loves a sport too, when they practice, they're like, I'm gonna get there early, I'm gonna stay late because I love playing basketball,
Yeah, exactly. Like when I used to drum, I would do that. I'd play for more than an hour. And be like,
Time flies, yeah. By the end of it, you're like, geez, I'm late for whatever else I gotta do.
which famous musicians do you admire and have learned from?
Oh man, there's so many. Trying to get them all tattooed on my arm, but
Both arms or just one?
Just my left arm for now. I don't have many, but the ones I do have are like Blink, Angels and Airwaves, Boxcar Racer, kind of tied into one. So that's like all Tom DeLonge's projects. I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious that he's a big influence of mine on guitar, especially. And then I listen to a lot of the Used. That's kind of what started this band. And they've like Blink, they've never put out a bad record in my opinion. And Motion City Soundtrack's probably one that I'm going to get. Commit This to Memory, that album specifically, kind of changed my life and really put me back on the keyboard. Because for a while there, I wasn't playing keyboard or piano at all. And I guess more recently, a lot of the bands that I tour with, I mean, even your stuff, I was like, man, this kid's solid. And like, I shared it with some of my other like EDM dance pop singer friends. There's a band called Albus from West Virginia that I was been meaning to send you their contact, but I showed you their stuff. I showed them your stuff, sorry. And they're really into it. And they're just like two guys. Now they have a drummer, and they play like, very like dancey, electronic bass, soulful songs that, I mean, EDM isn't really my thing, but when I see these guys go at it and you sing, you know, meaningful stuff over it, I'm like, yes, that's where I want this genre to go. 'Cause I like a story. I like good songwriting. And that is all over emo music and punk music and pop, rock, the early 2000s alternative MySpace scene. Like, those songs were so catchy and powerful, in my opinion. And I still listen to them. All American Rejects, Boys Like Girls.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all those songs were like, man, this should still be crushing it. It's not like a retired sound,
fading.
in my opinion. Like, for instance, it's not dated in my opinion, because if you there's two sides to my perspective on music, and especially these days, is like, and like my opinion is or my taste is so dated in most people's opinion, especially like college kids these days. They are listening to like not what I play. When they see my show, they're like, it was a really cool production, cool visuals. They never mention like good songs, man. And I'm always like, oh, what am I doing wrong? So when I get that feedback, I'm like, man, yeah, I guess I'm dated. And like, the bands I listen to are like how my parents used to listen to Kiss. But it's not really like that, because if you look at some of those older bands, AC/DC, Kiss, sure, some of their songs were timeless, but like a lot of it was just garbage. Like, oh man, just terrible lyrics, no story. But and this could, you know, like I said, there's both sides of me. It could just be me being an old man, but when I turn on like the Boys Like Girls record that I'm about to get tattooed on me, or like Death Cab for Cuties, Transatlanticism, or Plans even, or the Used in Love and Death, I'm just like, man, these songs, these albums were so well produced, well written, like from beginning to end. That's kind of what my next blog coming out is about. It's like the structure to making a release. It's such a long process, but there's so many key elements, and these bands that I've listened to their albums thousands of times, like, that's the thing. If they're in my iTunes over 1,000 plays, they go on my arm. And like, when I listen back to them every time, I'm just like, unbelievable. Like, how did this scene die? How did these bands break up? How are they not going to be legendary, timeless acts? But yeah, that could be subjective. That could be a matter of opinion.
And that's like here at our school, a lot of kids do listen to like the, I don't know, rap, whatever.
Yeah, EDM, rap,
Yeah, all that
hip-hop,
type of
yeah.
music. But if we do play some song back from the early 2000s, everyone loses. You know,
Oh yeah.
everyone loses it, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
I
I
see it
love to
all over the
see.
country, man.
Yeah.
When you pull out "Sugar We're Going Down,"
Oh yeah.
everyone's gonna be jumping up and down singing every word. I've heard that song covered over 110 times in counting, and it's like I get that a lot of that was marketing. They had a means, they had a peak marketing age in the early 2000s. Not only was MTV blasting those videos all day with VJs, bringing them in for interviews, like you had some like really influential media outlets back then. But also there was the MySpace, Nextopia, all these websites that were not solely based on the individuals like social media is now. They were really solely based on what the individuals were consuming. So they were all about like who was on your playlist, who are your top 8 friends. Oh, they're these top 8 bands. Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna like those bands too. They're playing shows. I'm gonna go to their shows. I don't care how big they are. Like there was a real big, powerful, influential media outlet that was driving DIY bands, small bands into success and getting signed to major labels. And there was the major labels being like, yeah, we're going to use these tools too and get everybody with a MySpace account to love our new band's new release and tour them around the world and make tons of money. And that's why today we'll never forget those albums. And it's sad because those new artists, Newfound Glory has a new album and it's great. But I'm a bit of a hypocrite on it too. Is that like I don't think I've heard the whole thing all the way through. But how many times I've heard Sticks and Stones or whatever that huge album was? Thousands. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're all a part of it. Even though we're part of the 2% that will still go out and discover new bands. We're still, obsessed with those early 2000s releases due to the media outlets that were driving them. And maybe because of those powerful media outlets, producers were going balls to the wall 16, 18, 20-hour days to make these the greatest sounding albums so that when they came out, they were going platinum. Nowadays, I think a lot of producers are like, well, it's just going to be played on people's phones anyway. Let's slate drums these and give it a quick mix and release it,
Yeah. Now, you've been performing, you said you started around 2004, right?
Yeah, the name changed to Rosedale in 2004.
Okay. So...
I didn't start touring until about 2010.
Okay. So in that time frame, what would be, or if you have multiple, what would be the fondest musical memories that you've had, either performing at home in your neighborhood town or going on the tour that like you're on right now? So what would something like that be?
Oh, well, so many highs and lows, and you tend to remember the lows. But the big summer for me that was like, wow, I think I'm finally on to something was when Warped Tour finally let me play on some stages. And I was going into production every day and talking to all these people who like I've tried to email countless times and they never cared. But, here they were like in front of me every morning saying like, hey, here's what we would like you to do. And in return, here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to get you on stages. Just get everybody's info that is playing in the parking lot or selling their CDs. We'd like to know what they're driving because a kid just died driving from freaking Detroit to Chicago. So like, we want to make sure that we know what everyone's driving. And I think they thought it was me that fell asleep and drove into a ditch, but like I skipped that one date. So it was like this crazy opportunity that opened up for me to like be a part of Warped Tour and, have a pass. I never thought playing in the parking lots would pan out to that. I heard all these stories that it could. But that summer was like, whoa, I'm actually in here with a past, playing Acoustic Basement, playing Ernie Ball Stage, playing Kevin Says in my hometown. This is surreal. This is like what I've always dreamed of. And I was able to like sleep 1 hour, eat maybe 400 calories a day, and sometimes zero, and just like live it. And none of that, like none of the hard times, not shower for 5 days, none of that even affected me. Like looking back on it, I'm always like, that's crazy how I got by sleeping 1 hour, driving 8 hours, and then hustling for 14 hours and doing it all again the next day and the next day and the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I felt the biggest rush of energy ever in those times. Like I was like probably in the best shape of my life from hustling that hard. But yeah, that was probably like the high of my touring experience. It was just like going out on a whim, taking a chance. And that was like the first time that I started touring solo by myself. It's
Mm-hmm.
like everybody had left. I had hired guns that were like, yeah, we're not really about to go drive around the Warped Tour and play with a generator in the parking lot like you do.
Yeah.
So I like went out and did that by myself, and they, I guess, like really respected that too. And they were like, that's your thing. Like, and there were so many bands that I idolized, like Bayside and All Time Low and Yellow Card and all these bands on that tour, Sum 41, that were coming out, checking out my set and like talking to the kids, being like, no, you don't want my autograph. Watch this guy. Watch his set. Watch his show.
Mm-hmm.
To come out, buy CDs. It was like, this is a dream come true. This is heaven right now.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was probably the best like 2 months of my life.
I feel like some musicians, depending on where you go, they wouldn't like direct their fans to like other people. I feel like some bands, like some artists, are like that nowadays.
Yeah, and that's what like Warped Tour is all about. Is like everyone's just like, it's a community, and they're like out to help everybody. And when they see me like struggling, rolling my amp through rocks, they're like, oh, dude, let me help you. Like it's and that's kind of what they've been known for as a production house too. Not even just the bands, but like even the production. They're able to see who the ones, who the up and comers are of the let me help you, more so than who's blowing up right now. And that's why they've always had like the really authentic bands come back, the bands that have not given up and thrown in the towel. Because if you have that mindset of like, hey, you know what, not everything is for me, and I don't need a good night every night. Maybe it's time I help others. Those are the bands that stick around and go through the hard times with a positive mindset and don't break up. You know, All Time Low, Sum 41 being great examples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you. There's so many. When I tour like the way I do now, there's so many bands that are like, we're in it for us. Move your merch table. You know, go over there. No, you're playing before doors, bud. Good luck. Like, there's a lot of that.
Have you been in any competitions?
Well, like Battle of the Band stuff, or like vote for my band.
I mean, yeah, like anything that you had to compete in, like there was a prize of some sort.
I used to dabble in that. When we were a 5-piece band, like 2006, 2007, there was Canada Day at Chinguacousy Park, and there was a Battle of the Bands that we entered, and the grand prize was $1,000. We were like, oh, we just made a music video. We owe the director like $1,500. Let's try and win this $1,000. That'll really help. So we went in it, and we had a good following. We had a good little local following around then. And we probably had like 30 people come out. It was outdoors. And really, there was only about 5 bands competing in this thing. But the people who set it up, their daughters were in this band called Dame. And So it was fixed from the start that these girls were going to win. And to make sure that it was like no competition, they gave us second last or last. I think we got last place. When like all the bands on the show were just playing covers. Most of them had just learned how to play guitar. I lent my guitar to this band, Dame, because hers wasn't working. And yeah, so sure enough, like, and then they asked everybody, so what are you gonna spend the money on if you win? And we were like, oh, we got to pay off our music video. That's why we did this. And the judges wrote in the comments, because yeah, there was a panel of judges, and they all had like little notes for us at the end, and they were all saying like drummer was way too busy, vocal harmonies were a little much, and really music video ? And we were like, what does that mean? What's wrong with making a music video?
Yeah.
Later, that music video got on Much Music, which is like Canadian MTV,
Okay.
on like the punk show, which was like the coolest thing for the music scene back then, and like blew up our local following.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, like they didn't like that we had a music video and we were competing in this little battle of the band. And then they asked Dame when they won the money, they were like, so what are you guys going to do with the $1,000? And they were like, we're going to go shopping.
Oh my God.
That was probably like the worst day of my life. I was so mad. And I knew that I would look back on it and laugh just because it was like a movie. But yeah, that was like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into in this music business? This is awful. I was so bitter.
Mm-hmm.
And so was like our singer who like later quit. But and then other than that, I've done the whole like, I mean, I submitted for the Warped Tour play the Ernie Ball stage, I think in like 2008, when we were like, oh, well, we're gonna go play the parking lot anyway. Let's try and get on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I don't think we did it right. And I'm pretty sure there's usually like a local Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands show beforehand. I found out through touring. I don't think that Toronto had one, but we tried that. Didn't really get many votes. And then there was like this other like Bon Jovi, open for Bon Jovi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that my aunt was all about.
That was like last year, I think it was. Or the year
Really?
before.
Still doing them? Man, the one I did was probably like 2011, 2013, maybe.
Oh, because a friend's band, they tried to get, they tried to win it, and I don't think they did.
Yeah. I think, I don't think it was the same like company that put it on or whatever, but I think Jimmy Eat World did one. And my friend Alex Baker's band, Coconut Milk, they broke up now, but I think that's how they got on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been good. But yeah, contests are still like, I don't know. They're like, especially in music, they're usually fixed from the start. Not to sound bitter, but they just factually, like, they're set up for somebody to already be the winner of something. But we played in other battle of bands up north in Muskoka, which is like really nice lake cottage country, and we were first to play, and the promoter was kind of like promising stuff like, yeah, if you guys play this battle of the bands, I'll make sure you guys get second, which is like $1,000, and we'll have a gig for you later at night. And I know it's only a little guarantee. I think it was still like $200, which for me is decent. But yeah, it was like kind of, so we knew that we were part of this fixed thing, and I at the time was paying musicians to like whatever their work was paying them to leave work and play for me. So I was like, okay, guys, yeah, let's do it because we're going to be getting this money for sure. And then, yeah, we went up and did it. And then like last minute, he switched it on us. And this other band who was going to be playing a cover set at the bar later that night was set to win the prize. Or we were set to win first, but then we got second or something like that. We were like, whatever, we'll take our 500 and go or something like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's like, there's always something like that where it's like, why even get judges? Just have somebody, why even make it a contest? Just make it a show where one band's getting a lot of money, the other band's getting a little bit, and everyone else is getting nothing.
Now, for the next question we were going to ask you is, obviously, you're on your tour right now, the first half of the tour. How do you balance your music with other obligations? So, like, how do you, like, you're going city to city, and how do you manage to balance your music with other stuff that you got to do?
Part of it is routine. Like, I try to make sure that I have like a good little sweat and shower before I even go do a load-in. So that kind of keeps me in shape, offsets the garbage that I sometimes is all I can afford to eat. And also keeps me clean, so I'm not just like some dirtbag at the show who smells bad. Because I think that's a common issue with touring bands, and maybe why their fans don't come back. You don't want to be nasty, smell bad.
Yeah.
Present well.
So that it sometimes happens. If you have a 13-hour drive, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So my rule is, like, if the drive's under 4 hours, I'm definitely going to make sure that I get to a gym on the way and have a good shower. And if it's like under 6, at least have a good shower. And then, the hard part is like keeping up with the booking. I always am emailing so many people, bands, promoters, venues. Following up with that is like a full-time job when you're at home. And then when you're on the road, it's like, oh shoot, that person finally replied and we can confirm the date a month out. I got to take it from my phone, but now I can't put it in my calendar, and then I might forget. So I got to get on my computer. I got to get Wi-Fi. I have to make sure this gets in my calendar so I don't forget, and I get all the details down. And I got to confirm 3 or 4 bands for this show. How am I going to do that while I'm on the road? Start messaging accounts, asking for suggestions. So that is the big, burden in my schedule. If I could just have a booking agent or someone put me on a tour with someone where I don't have to worry about all those details, all I have to do is promote and worry about playing, that would be awesome. But a lot of it is just bare bone sacrifice. Nothing else can go. I don't really hang out with the people as much as I'd like to after the shows or anything like that, because I have so much gear to pack up, or it's by the time I'm done, it's so late. And then I got to make sure that I'm up early, so I'm sleeping a lot less on the road. And if not because the drive is early, because maybe I lost money last night and I can't afford a meal, so I got to get to a hotel in the morning before 10 and get my food for the day from the continental breakfast. It can get pretty crazy, but there's always a little bit of time where you got to be like, okay, I got to make that flyer for next week's show. It's been put off for good reasons, but I got half an hour right now. I'm going to get down to it. I'm going to get this done. And then days like this where I have off, I just make sure that I at least spend 8 hours taking care of June and July's dates and getting them secure and getting all the bands confirmed and making sure they all got their tickets. You almost become more of a promoter than a musician. Sad. That's the age we're in now with door deals and the struggle to just get people out to shows. You got to be a promoter.
Yeah, but it'll pay off it'll pay off soon in the future.
Well, if anything, everyone asks so is your full-time job a musician? I'm like, I'd like to say yes. It is all I do, but the way that I'm able to make a pretty pathetic living off of music is to actually be the promoter and rent out venues and order tickets from ticket companies and follow up with all the bands on how they're doing, and then paying out the bands, but making sure I have enough to get to the next show and that I've sold enough merch to all these people that brought their friends and my fans that, didn't get to see me for a few months. Like, that is what is able to, not only fill my tank, but I've actually been coming home with decent amounts of money that I can, order more CDs, order more merch, make another album. And that's all that really matters. I can keep stealing food from hotels. I don't mind.
How do you handle mistakes during a performance?
Oh, I've talked to this. I've talked about this to a lot of other bands too. When they're like, "Oh man, I definitely did not have a good show tonight, but thank you." Whenever I say good set or whatever, is like mistakes are kind of like good in a lot of cases, because it not only shows these people that you're also human, but it also gives a little bit of the live feel to the people who do know the song. So anybody who's there knowing every word, if you maybe your voice cracks or you miss a note, you can look at them and they're smiling. They're stoked that they just saw that happen.
Yeah.
And that's a captivating moment. And that's what you're after, right? So whenever I make mistakes, I try and have that mindset, but then get out of it right away, because you don't want to be making more. And presence is everything. As long as I'm present, I can make all the mistakes and be happy with it. But when I'm present, I don't think of them as mistakes. I'm like, oh, I was a fret sharp? That's all right. That's because I was looking at that person singing along, and we connected. And that was way more important than playing the song right. So, yeah, I look at mistakes with either an excuse or well, at least be present. Don't take yourself away from entertaining this crowd. That's what you're there to do. You're there to give them a show. But then there are mistakes like technical difficulties that really get you sweating. I just switched over to Active X, all digital guitars, and I changed my interface to a Personas, and it's one of the old school ones. And for some reason, when I have my DMX's program open, and I like to have it open because then all the oscillators work better for some reason. I think it's something that they probably made so that you have to show that you use that program. So it's open on the screen. And anytime it's open on the screen, in the beginning of Quicksand, as soon as everything hits, it's been crashing. So every time I go to play that song, I'm like, I have to stop and go back to my computer and reset the buffer rate so that it finds the interface again, because it loses connection with the interface somehow, or GPU overloads to the point that it can't find it. So there's many things I tried to do to fix that from happening, but I've found that if I don't have DMX's open on the screen, it doesn't happen. But then the light show isn't as awesome, but nobody really notices. So things like that, when it happens, you just got to kind of be like, hey, sorry, but I'm having some computer issues, and I'm going to jump right back into this intro, and then, off I go. So that's something that I don't think a lot of bands face, because they have band members that just continue playing the song, guys. Whereas it's I'm relying so much on my computer. Any technical difficulty is a tragedy. But even that, people have said to me after the show is dude, how did you keep your composure with that and just jump right back into the song like nothing happened? And they're also appreciating the fact that holy crap, this guy's computer is running all this stuff, and he's a one-man show, and he created it all. It's not like a producer sent him out on the road and said, here's your tracks, go for it. That's kind of a moment where people had a chance to realize that this is the guy behind it all too.
Yeah.
I really want to hear the rest of this show, which I think that, in my head, I kind of take that for granted and people don't. It's part of the story, and that's kind of what you want to get across is your whole story without having to tell it. That like this is what I do, this is who I am. Don't get it mixed, don't get it twisted subconsciously.
To you, what makes, or you've been in the studio obviously because you have an album and everything. So to you, what makes a good session?
Time efficiency, I guess. I mean, it depends on where you're at with the process. Like, I really enjoy the demo, the pre-production most of all, because you're in that creative mindset where like anything could be changed, and that's what you're there for. And it doesn't matter how good it sounds. The fact that you just changed that chorus melody to be a little more catchy, that's a huge success for the day. Like, that's something to write home about. And the next 10 hours we might be struggling with what to do with this bridge, but that's part of the creative process, and you're like digging for gold. And then after you have everything decided, it's all like trait work, like time efficiency. Like, all right, how quickly can we get these guitar parts laid down, doubled, and fix any like parts that were maybe slightly out of tune or off time, like overdub those. You got to get this production sounding as it needs to sound, kind of like, being on a job site. So yeah, in that stage, it's time efficiency. But like in the pre-production stage, the fun part, it's like digging for gold, where we really like open-minded to ideas. If we come up with some new stuff today, that's a good session to me.
Now, do you mix your own songs, or do you have a producer who mix your music?
So all of the releases that are online were mixed by that mentor, producer, engineer, Steve Risen.
Okay.
But like, because he's been my mentor over the years, I mean, everything I know is thanks to him and his guidance. But I'm quite the control freak and like micromanager, looking over his shoulder as he does everything, which he sometimes hates, but I think he sometimes really appreciates too, because I know what I want and it gets things done quicker to have me there, but also makes way more unsettling steps. Like, we don't settle is what I mean, because I'm there and I know what I want, and I like won't let us move on until we get that snare exactly how I pictured it.
Yeah.
So he ultimately mixes everything, but the final say is like, are we both happy with it? Is there really any way we can get that guitar solo louder?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of like a dual team with that, for better, in my opinion, for better or worse, maybe in his opinion, because I think that he's part of a different upbringing in music and sound engineering and even taste in the punk world. But I think he definitely respects how far I've come along with my ear and my even artistry and progression, like creating stuff and being original. That's another big thing. It's like, he wants to see me do something that nobody else has done yet, as opposed to like just clashing all of my influences into one album.
Yeah. Now, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a hard one. I mean, 5 years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, when I'm 29, I'm going to be you know, playing main stage Warped Tour and playing the big clubs at least. Like, if I keep going on this path and I'm getting this kind of response from this crowd, even though there's not many, they're going to bring 5 friends next time. You know, not to point all the blame on fans or people, music appreciators, but because of their unpredictability, I'm not able to really know where I'll be at in 5 years, 10 years. I know that I'll still be doing music. I'll still be performing. I mean, performing for me is the most fun part. And writing, like, even if you're performing in the studio, sure, I like production. Sure, I like making things sound how I want them to sound. But the thing that I never want to stop is, like, being, you know, the voice behind the microphone or the guy on the guitar. So I don't know, like, I'm very stuck in my ways of, like, you know, Rosedale's been around for so long and I'm always touring and I'm always making new music. But when I hit 33, 34, if I'm still doing these small little tours, something's got to give, you know, something's got to change. And I said that 5 years ago too, and I'm still out here stuck in my ways. But so it's really hard for me to say. I wish that an opportunity came along where it was like, we want to make Rosedale our next, you know, big project, but we want you to change this, change that. And I mean, it's worked for our other artists, so it's going to work for you. I mean, I'd be willing to change my ways for something like that. Call it selling out, call it whatever, but, like, the amount of work that I have to do by myself, sure, it's a lot of things I enjoy, but a lot of things I hate doing. I hate booking. If it meant that, like, I had to change my name or change my sound a little bit for the better of my days, and so that I'm doing more of what I love and less of what I hate, that's something that I'd totally be down for. It's just, like, nothing has really come that way that's actually promising, you know. There's people who have been like, hey, I want to help out, like, this is what I think you should do. And I'm like, what do you know? Like, what have you done? You haven't made any, you know, successful records. You haven't filled any venues. You haven't done these things that I would like to do, or I look up to, or people who I look up to have done. So, I mean, my goal for the time being is just to, like, keep chasing the best version of myself and getting there, so that the people that I do look up to are like, all right, we can't deny it. You've got something that we can benefit from, so this is mutual. Let's work together, right?
So that's all the time we got, listeners. So I thank again Mike from Rosedale for being on the show. Mike, one more time, can you tell the people what platforms they could find you at?
Sure, yeah. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/Rosedale Music. Instagram, it's at Rosedale Mike, all one word. And Twitter, it's Rosedale Music, Rosedale Mike also. And the website is rosedalemusic.net. If you can't find any of those, they're all listed on there, as well as my weekly blog. That's up there. And, yeah, pretty much the best way to do it, rosedalemusic.net. And, yeah, thanks for having me on here, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. So that's the end of the 10th episode and the final episode of the first season of an Industries Insight podcast. Make sure to go follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get the updates. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like our YouTube page to listen to the podcast if you missed it. So until next time, I'm your host, Thomas Grabuznik.
And I'm Dino Ciccarelli.
And we'll see you guys next season. Signing off.